Hey guys, in this quick video, I'm going to show you how to connect Voiceflow with OpenAI's vector store and use it as a knowledge base instead of the inbuilt knowledge base in Voiceflow actually. What's the main benefit of this is that you can connect as many OpenAI vector stores and use them as knowledge bases as you want for your Voiceflow AI agent. Because natively, Voiceflow allows you only to use the knowledge base in that corresponding project, so you are not able to connect and switch between multiple knowledge bases. Also, out of the box, OpenAI's vector store, when you use it as a knowledge base, has much higher capacity in terms of the uploaded documents, and out of the box, the precision and the RAG accuracy when retrieving the information from OpenAI's vector store is actually higher than the Voiceflow knowledge base. So let's get into it. You are going to have the link to download this Voiceflow template in the school community. The link for it will be in the video description down below this video, and there you will also find much more useful tips and tricks and basically insights and templates from real projects we have actually sold and built. For example, in governmental niche, where my agency Hype Digitally AI, I'm from Czech Republic, and we have over here over 15 plus recurring clients, and we've built over 30 projects altogether. And yeah, we are mostly in governmental niche, so we have lots of real production ready experience, and you will find all of those valuable templates we've sold for dozens of thousands of dollars. These projects, you will all find it there. So now let's get into the Voiceflow template, and I will guide you step by step how to plug and play it. First, you will need to input your API keys into the secrets in Voiceflow. So first, copy and paste your API key from Voiceflow into secrets over here. Then we will need multiple things because we want to connect OpenAI. We will need OpenAI API key and OpenAI vector store, which is the ID of our knowledge base from OpenAI. So you need to go to platform.openai.com. You will need to go into storage and you will need to create your own vector store. From there, once you have it created, I've already created for the sake of this demo a vector store called RAGus demo template, same name as is my Voiceflow project. And you will need to copy and paste your vector store ID that you have created. So this is your vector store ID. You will copy it and you will paste it in here in OpenAI vector store ID secret. So the next thing in this project, also first you will need to create OpenAI project under which you will create the vector store ID. So then you will need to create in that specific project the API key. So click on create new secret API key. I've already created it, and you will paste it in here into OpenAI vector store ID secret. Then the last thing, in order to use and utilize LLMs directly via API steps, which is my favorite way to do so, because Voiceflow natively forces you to use their own AI steps, but you are not able to use the LLMs directly in order to save the credits. So you will need to go to RAGus.ai, which is basically unified interface for any LLMs that are present currently on the market. You will create your account and you will get your API key. This way, you will be able to call directly onto any currently available model from even free models actually up to latest and most flagship models. So yeah, you will need to input your own OpenRouter API key over here. So that's the last thing. Now let's go through the template step by step. First, there is a simple JavaScript code block step, which basically has only a single variable, which you can set its value in here. If you set it up into one, Voiceflow knowledge base will be used natively. If you set it up to two, also Voiceflow knowledge base will be used, but with filter. And if you set it up to 3, GPT OpenAI vector store will be used. So I've set it up to value 3, and then there is a welcome message. Then we are listening in order to capture the user's reply, and we store the last utterance into variable called user reply. Then here is what I've been talking about, that we will be able to directly connect via API call onto OpenRouter.ai there. And here is the step I've been talking about. We will be able to connect onto OpenRouter via API. You don't need to set up any API key additionally because it's already connected to the secrets from the Voiceflow CMS. So also, if you want, you can change the AI model used by just changing this modules int array by inputting any model from here. If you just click on any model, you just copy its name and you would paste it in here instead of this value, basically. So it's already configured in accordance to OpenRouter API documentation, and the response will be saved into user reply in this case. This step basically is for rewriting and optimizing the user query into ideal vector search RAG optimized query. So Also, it will serve you as a showcase how to use the OpenRouter AI models directly via API step. If we just look into this step before, it's a simple JavaScript step where we are setting up variables for the system prompt and for the user prompt, basically, in order to paste them into the OpenRouter API call, actually, and you see that in here, basically. So if I just go quickly through this, basically, you can use this as a template for setting up any kind of AI LLM API call. And this is simple JavaScript step where we are setting up this system prompt and user prompt. So this AI step is used to optimizing queries for vector database searches. In the user data, we are inputting the original user query, the last return saved into this Voiceflow memory, and current date and time. So this way, user will be able to conversate with the chatbot without always inputting the optimal user query, but this flow will be rewriting it optimally in order to achieve the best results in vector search. So we are outputting the optimized query over here. And depending on the path or the variable value set in the beginning of the flow, it will go to a specific way. So this if condition can go through 3 different specific ways. First and 2 paths are connected to Voiceflow knowledge base without filters. So this way you can query Voiceflow knowledge base directly via API as well, which gives you much more flexibility in terms of the retrieved chunks, in terms of the query, and basically setting up the JSON query and the ability how to customize querying of the knowledge base. So if you compare this way, basically how to query the knowledge base, besides the way via the KB search step, as you can see in KB search, you can just use maximum 10 chunks, but in this query API step, you can choose even 100 if you want. So that's much better actually. And also, moreover, you cannot include any filters in the KB search step, but if you compare it with this JSON body, you can use property filters and you can input arbitrary filter. So this is just for a showcase. I can show you later in the demo or in the next video how would you exactly utilize this filter property. But now we want to see how to use OpenAI's vector store as a knowledge base. So we will go through the route of the value 3. And we have already configured this API call. This is a post API call onto OpenAI's vector store. And it uses the secret from the Voiceflow CMS. And we have the vector store ID already put in. And you can see in here that in the query, there goes the user reply. And max num results is basically the amount of chunks that we are going to return. And we will be returning and saving them into the data, into the chunks, which is our own variable. So let's go into the final step. And the last step basically is to concatenate and stringify the chunks returned from either Voiceflow knowledge base or OpenAI vector store. Also, it's worth to say that this way you can be using multiple OpenAI's vector stores because you will just copy and paste this block and you can have as many knowledge bases as you want, right? Let's go into the last step. And the last step is when we have the knowledge base chunks, we are basically, again, calling onto OpenRouter via API call, again, defining system prompt and user prompt to generate the main LLM response, right? So this is a simple prompt only for a AI assistant. It's high digital agent informational AI assistant, basically, whose only purpose is to answer only regarding on the reference information given into it. And those are the chunks returned from the OpenAI's vector store. So this prompt is already optimized for maximum RAG accuracy. It's a templated prompt. You can just plug and play and customize it for your clients or your own AI agency. And we use this exact prompt for our own agents and agents we deliver to our enterprise projects, actually. A little technical note before executing the flow, I will just show you if you will wonder when you visit the JavaScript code block. There is this simple, interesting function, which is particularly useful when you are calling onto any large language model directly via API step, because you will be using and inputting JSON body into the API request. You will need to escape and sanitize your prompts that you are inputting into the API call in order for the API call to go through correctly without any errors. So this is actually what this neat function does. It takes input, you throw into it, and it sanitizes it, and it basically takes care of all special characters like backslashes, quotes, double quotes, /hits, new lines. You see in these prompts all of these empty lines. So all of these you need to escape properly. And so that's what this function does. And we are just using the user prompt, the system prompt, and we are basically calling the function onto it. And the result of the function we are saving into the same variable, which we then are inputting into the API call onto OpenRouter.ai. But now is the time when you may be telling yourself, but Pavel, how do we actually upload those URLs of my clients or PDFs or documents directly into the knowledge base in a simple way? So you have 3 ways how to do this. The first way is to do it manually, scrape the contents of your website manually in a static way. When something changes on the website, you will need to do it again, and you will do this manually by adding the files here, like in different platforms, no-code platforms that you just input your data sources directly via the platform, right? That's not a good way how to do things, actually, and not a scalable way. The second way how to do this is via their vector store APIs from OpenAI. They have very good API documentation over here, but you will need to custom code everything, the entire scraping pipeline from scratch, basically. That's a little bit harder to do, but the better and more predictable way in the future and more scalable way. The third way how to do it is to use app, actually, called RAGus.ai, which utilizes OpenAI's vector store APIs under the hood and allows you to upload arbitrary large websites, even 100,000 pages websites and documents inside them on autopilot in a no-code way. That's only app on the market currently that does this. So let's look into RAGus.ai, how to set it up and how to upload your OpenAI vector store with any website of your client in a couple of clicks. The setup is really easy and it takes like 2 minutes to do so, and you can automate the entire knowledge base ingestion pipeline on autopilot. Visit the URL app.ragus.ai and create your organization and your account. You can also log in via your Gmail. So I will log in because I've already created my own account. And first you will be redirected into the billing section in order to start your free trial. So if I show you basically the plans, how it goes, you can hop on the starter, on the specialist plan. I would recommend actually the specialist plan because you can automate your entire knowledge base ingestion pipeline by utilizing the inbuilt task scheduler module, which is basically like a task scheduler in Windows or a cron job in Linux. Basically, when you first set up your scraper, you can then set it up in automated way in regular intervals, be that days, weeks, or even a couple of minutes, so your knowledge base stays fresh and up to date on autopilot, and you do not have to rescrape it ever again manually or touch it, actually. So that's quite insane feature, and Voiceflow says that they have this, but it doesn't work most of the time, and the websites get rescraped all over again every time. It's spending credits, tokens, it breaks, and from my experience in this platform, it works really, really well. So you just need to hop on the free trial, basically, to test the platform. Then in order to automate the OpenAI vector store knowledge base, you just need to go into the knowledge base tab. So in order to run the scraper and upload your knowledge base, you will first need to connect your API keys as well, as you can see over here. You do this by going into the settings and into the tab API keys. You will need to create your profile, basically. You can consider this as the project under which you will be creating the API keys. So create a new profile and let's name this, for example, RAGus demo, and you insert here your OpenAI API key, which you will create in that platform.openai.com. So that's the first thing you need to do, and you will have your OpenAI key here. Also, you will need to input your OpenRouter API key as well. That's for utilizing LLMs inside this platform. So go to OpenRouter again, get your API key and input it here. So the last missing puzzle is to use website scraping provider that's used under the hood in here. You do not have to code anything. You just need to create API key in order to initiate and use properly the website scraping. So you can use 2 website scraping providers. One is Gina and second is Firecrawl. Both of these are the most known and used basically in website scraping space, you could say. And I like Gina more actually because it's much cheaper and you get like 1 billion tokens for $20 or something like that. So go to Gina.ai, create your account and create your API key by going in here and copy paste your API key. So you can see that I've bought 1 billion tokens and I've been using this for quite so long and I haven't even managed to spend it. So yeah, once you have connected all your API keys, let's go to the Universal Scraper. In default, you will have selected Voiceflow knowledge base. If you click on this, you can choose between multiple integrations. So RAGus.ai basically automates the entire process from scraping the website, extracting the data, cleaning it, chunking it, and uploading it into the resulting knowledge base or vector store of your choice. So be that if you like OpenAI vector store, or you are building your agents in Voiceflow, or you just want to use standalone Qdrant or Supabase as your database or vector store, you can use it, and more integrations are coming in the near future. So for the sake of this demo, we will choose OpenAI vector store as our knowledge base. If you have properly created your API key profile, you will see it in here, and you can choose it, and automatically, also, if you've created your vector store, it should be here, and you can choose it, and we can work with it. So let's go into the next tab, and that is sources. In here, we will paste in the URL of our client or the website we want to scrape. Let's test this on our own agency website. So I will paste in our own agency website, and that's the base URL. I will copy it, and I will use our XML sitemap as the example. So XML sitemap is basically a structured XML that has all the URLs of the particular website in it, so that the scraper can navigate it properly, and it will extract actually all the individual URLs on the website. That way, you do not have to visit and copy-paste each and every URL into the scraper. And also, it reads their own last modified values. So if you visit any sitemap, for example, sitemap of our website, you will see that our website has last modified values. So each and every URL within the website has their own value when it has been last modified or any content has changed in it. This basically is a great way how the scraper can recognize if something has changed on the website, and in the next and consecutive runs, it can only rescrape those pages that have actually changed or has been modified since the last scraper run. That way, you are saving tons and tons of tokens and processing time, basically. This feature Voiceflow and all other platforms do not have natively, and maybe if they say they have this, it doesn't work actually from all the platforms that we have tried in our agency. So yeah, let's paste the sitemap, and in here, check last modified, you can select if you want to always process all URLs, or if you want only to process those URLs that have been modified since the last run, or it may happen for some instances that the URLs in the sitemap will not have this value. It's very rare, but it can happen. But in this scenario, RAGus is also okay, so you can choose partial, and those URLs without this last mod value will be always processed. So we can choose any value of this how we want, but for the first run, because the scraper hasn't run prior, we can choose to process all URLs. Also, if you would want to use the scraper only for specific URLs, you could tick this and input specific URLs. But I want to show you how to scrape the entire website through and through, so let's untick this. And you can see that the XML sitemap will be processed, and you can see how RAGus will process it over here. So let's go to the next step, crawler. If your website or your client's website would have some files in it, you can tick this one, and it will automatically analyze all of the files that are present in each URL, and it will scrape those files in your knowledge base as well. So it's basically best of the both worlds option, how you can also scrape the URLs content and also the files inside it. This saves you like so much time, basically. In our website, we do not have any files, but this option is like very, very cool, and I would recommend to use it if your clients have any documents inside their websites. Also, you can choose to omit particular relative paths from the scraping altogether. Let's continue. Now we would need to select our priority content provider, which will be Jina AI in our case. If you would want to omit or target specific parts of the clients or your website, you would need to enter in the either target selector to target specific parts of the website, or remove selectors in order to avoid scraping specific parts of the website. So you would need to inspect your site in HTML code, extract the selector, and input it here. We will not do that now, just for the sake of the speed of the demo. So let's go to the AI engine. Here you choose the AI model used from OpenRouter. Here you have multiple pre-defined or default models. I would recommend using Gemini 3 Flash actually, because it's a very cheap model and very fast. Also, you can choose the target language. Right now there is English and Czech, so let's stick in English in order for you to show you the results of the scraping. Pre-chunking strategy. This is such a broken feature actually, because most of the platforms natively doesn't allow you to basically choose your own chunking strategy, and they just have this naive or fixed size chunking strategy where they just take the pure content on the website and then they chunk it in same length chunks, basically, of tokens. For example, 500 tokens. Each 500 tokens, they split the website, and it doesn't respect the logical or hierarchical structure of the website or its meaning, basically. So I would recommend for you to choose natively Markdown header strategy, or if you would want more tinkering about this, I would recommend agentic strategy. where you can also specify and edit the actual prompt for the large language model to be used as a splitter for the content. So as you can see over here, you have this prompt: you are an expert content architect. Your task is to analyze the structure and divide the document into chunks that are semantically coherent. So you can also utilize large language models intelligence to optimally split by logical boundaries the website's content. But natively, I would start with Markdown header chunking, which you do not have to tinker with too much, and it will respect the logical structure and the headlines of the website. So whenever it encounters any hashtags or headlines, it will just take that information that belongs under it, and it will sit in their own separate chunks of information. Then there is core content chunking, which is basically settings for the OpenAI vector store itself. You can leave that as is as well. You can also choose max chunk size and so on. So it's in default set to the maximum allowed chunk size, and there is content ratios 0.7, which basically means that 70% of the entire chunk will be covered by the URL's content, and the rest will be basically populated with metadata that you can take here that you want to generate. So each chunk will have the original source page summary, current chunk summary, overlap summary, and RAG optimized questions basically. So what this does is to give each and every chunk that will be, or the document that will be scraped into your vector store, it will give him additional metadata and context for the LLM later in the generation phase to have a bigger picture about how to basically, how the chunks are coming together, and it will heighten your accuracy even more. You will see this in a moment where I show you after scraping the results of it. So now we have everything we need, and we can just start scraping. Let's run the scraper by clicking Start Scraping. And you will see the scraping progress over here, and the logs have been initialized, and you can see actually step by step how it's going to be processed. So first there is the scraper configuration. You can see the configuration that we have used: the base URL, AI model, provider sequence, which got configured. So we used Gina AI, also which were these advanced website scraping settings. Processing files in the website has been disabled. We chose the chunking strategy basically, and pre-chunking strategy is Markdown. So also what this app does is that it takes all the actual present content in the vector store and it duplicates the information. So when you will be running the scraper once again, this will basically result in not any duplicated information, and your agent will not get bloated with duplicated information, which is very huge. So for our use case, for our sitemap, it recognizes 30 URLs, which is the case. And you can see that the home page was divided with Markdown headers, when I zoom this in, into 8 chunks. And you can see nicely how it got separated because of these headlines. And so these will be the chunks actually in the resulting files in the vector store. Yeah, so when I go down, you can see that it created these 8 files in the vector store. And it's continuing onto the next site, again, and it continues onto the next URL and so on, basically. Yeah. So how to test that this is actually getting populated correctly and how to test the results. So first thing is that you can go, of course, to your own vector store and look if it's getting populated with the files that you see here in the logs, basically. So let's go in here. I will refresh the URL, and the vector store should start getting populated. So when I load it, you can see here all of the files sequentially being added. This was the first one, and you can check that it's really getting populated. But how do we check now the actual contents of each file? This is also not doable to do over here in this platform, in native platform OpenAI. But RAGus.ai has the vector store manager, where we can look into each individual file and inspect its content. So we let it run like this. You can see the scraping progress, and we can go back into the knowledge base, and we can go into the universal vector store viewer. So I am in the OpenAI vector store. I can also choose between multiple vector stores, but right now we know that we need to go into our vector store in here. And you can see 44 files have been created so far. So let's look into it. It takes a little bit of time until it loads because of the OpenAI's API actually, and you can go to the beginning actually, and you can see all of the files over here. It takes a little bit of time until it loads basically. So yeah, let's go into the final page. Yeah, and here you can see actually the first part of the website, and you can just click on this I button to view the content. And you can see the basically contents of the actual file scraped into the database. So you can see the source URL, you can see the title, you can see basically the navigation, and you can see basically the source page summary, the current file summary of the website, the RAG optimized questions and the actual contents of the file, basically, and all the contents of the all individual files. So you can see that the website is getting scraped properly, basically. Yeah, and you can just let it run basically, and it gets populated on autopilot. When you return back to the universal scraper, it will be still running, and you can just let it be like this, and the whole website is getting scraped one by one. You can go back into the logs actually and see the current progress. So that's basically how your knowledge base gets populated. Now we can get back to our agent, to our demo template, and let's run it for the first time. And now we can test actually how the bot is working, because now in the knowledge base, it should be already populated with some example data from the website, and we can test it basically. In order to use the GPT OpenAI vector store inside this template, just set it up this variable up to value 3 and start the flow, and let's test this. So in order to show you actually this intermediate step works perfectly for optimizing and rewriting the queries for the optimal vector store retrieval, and also you will see the knowledge base chunks outputted directly from the knowledge base, how they look inside Voiceflow. So I will write a question, something like, what's hype digitally and what services do they offer? Now you will see the optimized vector search query, and you will see the chunks from the vector store from OpenAI. And now the finalized response is generated from the LLM. Yeah, and now we have the response in English because of the prompt, how it's prompted actually. So regardless of the language of the data, potentially it will output the answer in that particular language. So yeah, basically this is true. What is hype digitally? It's first AI agency in the Czech Republic specializing in AI transformation. Yeah. It offers following services. Okay, that's correct. And how much do they charge for chatbots, for example? Yeah. Rewritten query, hype digital chatbot pricing for public administration, because those are our most frequent clients. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, now you can see the nice answer with the table as well, and with every information from the website. So yeah, guys, this is how you achieve up to 95, even 99% RAG accuracy in production, and that's because of the quality of the data. And just to show you, when I copy the actual chunks from Voiceflow and beautify that more to be more readable, you can see actually the chunk score of retrieved chunks from the vector store is very, very high. It's 98%. And you can see that it's in JSON structure. And even the text content inside it is in Markdown as well, so you get the best of the both worlds actually. And each of these chunks has attributes, source URL, and it has the metadata, so it gives the LLM the overall big picture, how everything goes together. And it gives it logical, basically, meaning how this particular chunk, which is a specific part of multiple files, it's 5th of 7 files in the specific page. It gives it overall picture thanks to the current file summary. This file represents 5 of the 7 files in the document sequence covering transition from administrative features, security protocols, everything. So it gives it a very good understanding of the overall, basically, document, and you can see how nicely it was scraped. So yeah, guys, with this structure, you will be achieving even 98% and more RAG accuracy in production. This is how you should structure your knowledge base. And this is all actually, you can do it by coding it everything from scratch, but why not use it app like RAGus.ai that does everything on autopilot, and you can see the scraping was actually done while we were playing with the demo. And also you can automate the entire process via the inbuilt task schedule module, so you could run the scraper on autopilot, for example, every day, and you do not have to touch your knowledge base ever again, basically.